So, bodywork. We're studying the curved form, you know, how to handle curves. Jenkins, what are you doing back there? Not those kind of curves, Jenkins. I say, you can have it back. Come to my office at the end of term. Let's put this in the office. Hello! Oh, bugger, I'm watching something on eBay. Has it finished? No, we're okay. Hello and welcome to Tweed's Garage, where in this video we're doing a bit more bodywork. Second in the two-part series of bodywork on the Riley. So I'll put the link for the last video down in the description if you hadn't seen it. That's where he made the apron panel to go around the radiator. This one, well not this one, this is the original, the replacement's on the car. Yeah, and I was looking at it, and the way the number plate was fixed, it had a hinge on the front of this panel had a hinge on here, and then the brass rod went through, and then it had two steel plates that I've made new ones that went on like that and like that, so you could hinge the number plate up out of the way. Yeah, and that's how it was. Anyway, I was sort of looking at it and I thought it didn't quite finish the car off, and I've looked at photos of other Rileys. Yeah, some of the early ones didn't have a panel. 1931 did. I've seen some 29s with a front sort of valance panel that covers the gap between the two chassis horns at the front and the starting handle, keeps it, you know, covered out the way. Some have louvers in, some sort of dip round around the chassis rails, nicely shaped. And when looking at the hinge, it was a multi-loop hinge, so I suspect it had another side to it, another part of the hinge with a panel on the front, and it had probably rusted away a long time ago, because I know, you know, some of the other Rileys I've seen, you know, they're quite rusty, or people are trying to remake them and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think in an earlier video I made these with a little block, this little block here, and I was going to make my own hinge, like half a piano hinge, using the same sort of process. But this was because this metal's thicker and the hole was a bit bigger, I needed to make another one, which I did. Blimey, look at this organisation. So I made this one. This hole allows for double the thickness of the brass sheet, plus the brass rod that goes through the hinge, plus a little bit of allowance. Yeah, so you just drill a hole through like that. I'll do a close-up for you. Cut a slot in it with a slitting saw, and then you lay that over the top, tap it down. I'll show you in the video as we move along. So I decided to make the front panel. Didn't have a copy to make, so I had a sort of vague idea. It's going to be a fairly simple panel, because my abilities are fairly simple when it comes to bodywork. So I had a sheet of steel. Having battled with aluminium, I decided to make the front valance in steel, because when I was doing the experiments with the dimples down here, do you like this? They worked a lot nicer in steel than they did with aluminium. So I thought we'd have a go making the front panel in steel, and it also adds a bit more weight to it because it's only hinged and just, you know, just sits there on the front of the chassis with not a lot holding it, so you need a bit of weight there to sort of hold it down. So I had to work a process up. Unfortunately I didn't video that. So the first thing was to cut the sheet like the aluminium, cut the sheet to size, plus sort of 10-12 mil each edge to allow for me to fold it over and add a bit of strength to the panel. Yeah, so with that cut out, I then measured the chassis, because there's another two on the front chassis horns. There's two rivets each side that I needed clearance for, so I had to press a couple of these rivets in the panel. So describe it in the last video, so go and have a look. Got the press going, pressed the dimples, worked out the location, pressed the dimples in, job done, and then folded the edges of the panel over all the way round, you know, scribed it out, and then cut a little 45-degree corner off like that, so when you folded each edge over, they met at a 45-degree angle there, so you didn't have to do any trimming afterwards. So got that done, folded all the edges round, and then where the edges went over like they did on the apron panel over the dimple, just ground away and finished off the folded edge, so there was clearance for the rivet, for it to sit over the rivet. So done that each side, happy with that. Then I had to work out how to bend it and what form to follow. So the first thing I'd done was made a template. So I laid a bit of card against the chassis horns and drew round it, and then with one of my scrap bits of aluminium cut out the profile of the panel that I was going to fold it to or curve it to, so I could use this as a guide. Yeah, this worked really well. So just cut that out, finished it to the same size, just checked it on the chassis, and then that was my guide. So I was going to do it. I've got a set of rollers. Yeah, they're down there amongst all the rubbish. There's no swinging room. They're heavy, and they're not that great actually, really. So I thought we'd go old school. Grabbed myself an old CO2 bottle that I've got kicking around. Yeah, lucky I didn't sort of throw it away. I was going to, that's another story. Do you want me to tell a story? Tell you a story. Okay, for years and years I've been welding with CO2 gas, and some people throw their arms up in horror, but I've been using it for, well, going back and 20 odd years. CO2 for welding, made loads of things, chassis, frames, crash frame stuff, body work, never had a problem with it. Anyway, since COVID and after COVID, I went to get another bottle, and like everything since that crazy time and now, and inflation and everything, he said we don't carry it anymore. He said the price has gone up so much, it's not worth getting it. You might as well just have the you know, the Argo Shield gas. So that's what I did. I sort of went over to that. But the advantage of CO2 is it's damn cheap, and you didn't have to pay bottle rent either. So that's, you know, you're saving yourself 40, 50 quid a year with not having to rent the bloody bottle, which is a bit of a con. But, you know, they got you by the short and squirrelies. What are you going to do? So he didn't want the bottle back, so I bought the bottle home, and I thought, oh, I'll sort of chuck it in my pile and I'll weigh it in. But it come into use because it was a nice profile, nice and heavy, and laid it on the floor because, as you know, I ain't got a lot of space, and gradually rolled the panel over and pushed down along the length of it, and then just kept rolling it, and finally got the profile that I wanted. So I got this nice profile, and it fitted the gauge nicely, and I checked all the way along its length to make sure it wasn't bowing out, because I was worried where the edges were folded over it would sort of be harder to bend there than it would be in the middle. But it went really well, and yeah, the steel was nice to work with, and if you went a little bit far you could sort of manipulate it back, or, you know, yeah, so that turned out okay. And then so once I was happy with that, the next thing to do, what was it to do? Hang on, I've got to remember because I didn't video this bit. Loading. Ah, no, the next thing I needed to do needed to make a recess in the panel for the number plate. I was going to put the number plate on this one here. I was going to put this one on. This is the original one. It's pretty good. Unfortunately, it's been cut there and there on the corners because where it was used as a hinge number plate, they needed clearance on some of the rivets that it sort of went past on the chassis, so they've nibbled a little bit out. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So I was going to use this, but this is quite weighty, and then the panel was quite weighty, and you're sort of thinking about vibration and weight hanging. I was thinking it might be, you know, too much. It might sort of fracture eventually, but too much strain on the hinge. So what I thought we'd do is put a rebate in the panel the same size as the number plate, the black bit in the number plate where the numbers are, and then I could hand paint the number plate on because it's going to be a black panel anyway, and I only had to paint the numbers in white. So I used the number plate as a pattern to make a stencil to line out the numbers on the number plate when I came around to painting them. So I'm going to have to check this. So I remember now, once I got the curve on the panel matching the profile and checking it on the chassis as well, I then needed to bend the end over to form my face area for the number plate. So I bent that over. Now I had so much on getting this all done to get ready for the car show, I can't for the life of me remember how I'd done the near sort of 90-degree bend on the panel, but keeping that curved profile so it matched the end of the chassis horns. Can't remember how I'd done it. It was probably over a piece of tubing or a piece of rod, but for the moment I just can't remember how I'd done it. So, but I'd done it. So got that done, bent it over, and now you had to keep checking because you sort of put this bend on and it would sort of knock out a bit of your top curve profile as well. So sort of back on the gas bottle and just sort of tightened it back up again, got it back into shape, and yeah, got it all done. Happy with that. So the next process, this is the trouble, you have to sort of work through your processes when you're making a panel so that you don't get in the way of yourself, especially when you're using the bead roller, which you'll see in a little bit when I get onto the louvers that I put on the panel. So you sort of have to work out, I had to do the dimples first, then fold the edges over, then curve the panel, then bend the end, then I formed the recess for the number plate with the joggle rollers. So here's me chatting about improvements to my bead roller. That way. No, that way. Definitely that way. So whilst undertaking the work with the Viva bead roller, I decided to carry out a few modifications. This has been on for a while. Somebody suggested, one of you lot suggested a sort of a steering wheel or make a big wheel to go on the end. This is a machinery wheel that I picked up, oh, you may have seen on a video ages ago, a sort of a factory sale, a closing down of a factory, and this was just sort of a random item sitting there looking all forlorn, and I didn't want to let it go, so I brought it home with me. Been sitting on the shelf, and it's a little bit, just a bit oversized, tiny bit, but with the Allen screw done up, it grips perfectly tightly on the shaft, and works really well. It saves you having to, with the winding handle, your hand has to go back over the back of the bead roller, sort of behind the vice. It's quite a reach. So this, you can do it all at the front and just feed it through your hands and can control it quite well. So that was one little mod. Another little mod a lot of people have done, just bent up a piece of 10mm steel rod, cut a thread on it, and then this is my pressure adjustment on the rollers. It saves having to fish around for spanners to do it up and undo it. That works really well. Simple little mod. And then the other mod or improvement was to get some more dies or rollers for the bead roller. This is a set from Frost. No affiliation with them, but they do a lot of sort of restoration tooling and stuff like that in the UK. And they do two sets. They do the Eastward set and they do their own set. Now, looking at the photos, whether they use the same photo for both, but these look exactly like the Eastward product, but they're half the price. So I went with these. Haven't used all of them yet, but the main one I used was the joggle bend, these ones. See, and these are for doing, hang on, reach down to the pile of crap on the floor. These are for forming this sort of joggle bend on panels, or a joggle for welding two plates together, stuff like that. But you can use it for forming as well. You form, you know, sort of strengthening panels within a panel. The trouble with the ones they send you, these are the ones that come with it. The sheet metal's being bent over this lip here and here, but the trouble is the pressure also goes to this edge here. I was going to round these off a bit, and then what you get is this. So you get this scarring behind the panel. This is the back of the roller imprinting onto the steel panel, and if you sort of do it in aluminium, it's even worse. So, but with these, there's no overhang behind it, so you don't get the bruising of the steel on it. Like this one, this little practice piece here. See, it's just, yeah, it's wonky. This is practice, okay? Calm down. Yeah, so it does a nice edge, and then you don't get any bruising behind the edge that you're forming, and you can sort of go in really close into corners. And also they work really well on really sharp edges. You can go even sharper than this without digging in too much into the outside face as the roller, the outer diameter of the roller sort of rubs against the outer edge. So yeah, you can do some really good stuff with those. So it's worth it getting it for this set here. But then also you've got a thin one like this. They show it for using sort of using it as a tipping edge, but you can also use it for printing a panel. Before you bend it over, you get this sort of urethane roller to go underneath, and then you can roll your plate through it, and it'll sort of put an imprint on. So if you're sort of bending over an edge, it helps the edge tip over, especially if you've got sort of a curve in that edge as well that you want to get. So yeah, that's handy as well. Yeah, you've got, you know, bead rollers, more tipping rollers. Sort of had a go with these, couldn't really get on with these at the moment, so I need a bit more practice with these to get the best out of them. And these took a little bit of getting used to, yeah, hence all the panels down there. But once you get the hang of it, get it set up right, yeah, they work really well. So that they were a worthwhile investment if you're thinking about, you know, upgrading the rollers on your bead roller. Okay, as I said, no affiliation. I just bought a set off of them and was well pleased with them. Yeah, see, that's the sort of thing you can do with them. So mainly sort of tipping a curved edge and joggled edge and all stuff like that. But you can use your sort of imagination and do all sorts of things with them. So yeah, so that's that. Little improvements on the bead roller for making these panels. So there you go. So we improved the bead roller a little bit. So I then formed the rectangular recess for the number plate. And that went really well. And with those new rollers, because they're very thin, you can get right into a corner. Like this. Here's a trial panel that I done, just a very small recess, but that was done with those rollers, and there's hardly any bruising to the back of the panel, and you can get nearly a sort of perfect corner as well, running the rollers right up to each other. So yeah, so that was done. Really happy with that. Put the panel on, check the fit, happy with that. So with that done, I was about there, but I thought the panel was sort of lacking. It's, you know, it's just a smooth front panel, and most of the Rileys, they have a sort of a louvered section in the centre. So I thought, could I make louvers? You can get louver dies for bead rollers, but I didn't have them, didn't have the time to order them, get them done to get the panels finished in time. So I thought, oh, we'll have a go. We'll see if we can do it. See if we can have a go at it. So, oh, we had a little go here. So the first attempt, what I'd done was use the angle grinder with a disc cutter on to cut the slot of the louvers, and then use the bead roller and die to push that out and form your louver, which sort of looked pretty good. It looked okay actually, come out not too bad, but I wasn't happy with the gap was a bit too much, and where it stretches the steel you can see it sort of, you get this curved shape on the face of it, which I wasn't too keen on. So then the next option I had to go at was to do the cut with a Dremel, reinforced Dremel disc, you know, which is about half the thickness again of the thin angle grinder cutting discs. And yeah, that done the job perfectly. So I sort of marked out the panel where I was going to have the louvers, and also I was going to put a feature, form a feature joggle around the outside of the louvers as well, to sort of raise them up a little bit so they weren't just on a flat panel. So I sort of marked out my design, measured and marked in the positions of my louvers, where the cuts were going to go, and then shading in the areas that you knew were going to be your louver bit and where your cut was going to be, so you didn't cut the wrong bit. And then proceeded to cut them out. Now, as I've said before, with a panel you've got to work out how you're going to do it. So we've done the dimples, we've done the folding, we've done the curving, we've done the number plate recess, and then we've got the louvers. So you want to do the louvers on a flat panel, so louvers first. And then you want to do it so that you do the furthest louver away from the edge of the panel, so that when you do the next one, the panel moves out from the bead roller each time. You're moving out, moving out, moving out. You don't want to go the other way, because the trouble is then you start going over what you've just done. So you want to plan it in your head that which way you want to go. So you want to sort of start from the furthest one and work the panel out of your bead roller. And yeah, just sort of slowly increase the depth. I didn't do them full depth straight away, just sort of took about 3 passes and then run it to the edges and just sort of bumped it in a little bit to try and get sort of more of a rounded end to each end of the louver. and that worked quite well. And then the next thing to do was attach it. So like I say, I had half a hinge on the other panel, so I had to make my own hinge. So I had some material, I had some 24 gauge brass, bit of this, which was perfect for the job, but it wasn't quite long enough, so I had to make the half hinge in 2 pieces, and then where the recesses are, where there isn't a roll for a hinge pin, just sort of flat recesses, I just joggled the joints so that when I riveted them on, I could rivet the hinges on together, and the joggle joints wouldn't show above, because it's just this flat piece of the hinge that you don't see. I'll show you in the videos. I'm probably describing it to you and you're seeing pictures magically appear. So to make the hinge, just sort of marked out from the other half where my fingers needed to be cut in the panels, and then cut them out, marked them out, drilled the corners, drilled each corner of the pieces that I had to cut out. Then on the little shear, cut my downward cuts with a shear, cut along, and then with the Dremel with a little reinforced cutting disc, used that to cut out the remaining pieces of the material. So that left me with a sort of brass finger plate like that, and then all I needed to do was roll over the fingers to create my hinge pin scrolls, shall we say. So with all the hinges cut out, ready for bending, put them in the vise. Start with your first finger you're going to do, and with a pair of pincers, just curled over the very nose at the top of the finger, just sort of rolled it over slightly with a pair of pincers, then slide this onto the panel, and then proceed to gradually knock it down, and it sort of knocks it down and rolls it over, and then you keep going until the end of the finger touches the back of the material that it's rolled round into. It's not a perfect circle, so what you need to do then is just with sort of suitable size drift or rod, just with a tapered end so you can sort of get it in, gradually just sort of tap that through and form the nice round hinge scroll. And then you just knock this off the end, knock this off the scroll, and then just move along to the next one and the next one and the next one, and it works a treat. So yeah, made two, like I say, 2 sections, joggled the ends so that when they could be riveted flat together, you know, it'd only be ending up sort of like double the thickness of the brass. The way to do the joggle end on the brass is to put it in the vise with a piece of brass going to here and another piece of brass coming the other way to here, and then squeeze it in the vise like that, and that will give you your joggled end, and it will just be the sort of you know, the thickness of the brass that it's sitting over the top of. So that worked really well. So with the hinges done, I sort of clamped them together, marked them out, drilled holes for the rivet spacing across the hinges, and then put the brass bar through the other hinge with those hinges on, so I ended up with a complete hinge on the other panel. And a case of putting it on the car, putting the front panel, front apron on, and clamping it all on, lining it up, and then just sort of scribing underneath through the screw holes, just sort of 3 of them, one in the middle and one at each end, to get the location of where the hinge was going to go on the new panel. And then with that done, just sort of centre punched them, drilled them, put in the skin grips, skin pins, clicos, whatever you call them, to hold it together, and then go through and drill all the other holes through the steel panel, and then it's all ready for riveting together. I wanted to put a bit of paint underneath it first before I sort of, you know, riveted the brass hinge on like I did on the aluminium panel. Yeah, so I was really happy with that. So with that done, it was onto the painting, sort of undercoated, same as the last panel, put the hinge on, and yeah, a couple of days away for the show coming up. So the apron, the the apron around the radiator, the aluminium one, got that sprayed up, no trouble at all. And then sprayed up the steel panel, and same paint, same primer, same undercoat, everything, clean panel. But at first I thought it was where I'd got some overlap of primer and top coat. I had a sort of wrinkle line that appeared in the paint where I'd sort of painted first under the hinges and then put the hinge on, and then primed again over the top and painted that way. So it was just a nightmare. Yes, I sort of cleaned the paint off all around there, cut it back to, you know, where the paint was fine, and then repainted it, and it pickled again, pickled further. So then I stripped it off, took the hinges off, drilled the rivets out, took the hinges off, cleaned it, the whole panel up on the top face. Didn't worry too much about the bottom face because that was okay, actually. It was fine. It was just the bit that you saw was the bit that was causing a problem. So then I got some sealer primer, like a sealer primer. So I gave it a coat, thick coat of that, left it 24 hours like it said, then sprayed the undercoat, and which was fine, sprayed the top coat, looking good, coming back, and then the whole, it just kept crazing. It's where the paint shrinks back, so you get that crackle finish like you used to get on toolboxes and exercise books, that kind of thing. And yeah, no matter what I'd done, it just kept going bad. And it was just, what was annoying, it's the same paint, same tins of paint that I'd used on the repairs on the rear mudguard, repairs on the front mudguard, on the apron panel on the aluminium over etch primer. No trouble at all. This panel, because I wanted it to look nice, it was an absolute nightmare. But in the end I just ran out of time, so it was a case of let it harden off and put my stencil on that I took from the number plate, and hand painted the number on the front, and then just went over with wet and dry and just sort of cut back the wrinkle so it didn't look so bad. It looked, sort of went a bit sort of matte sort of finish, polished it up, but it matches in with the rest of the car, so it's fine. But it wasn't the shiny show winning example that I was aiming for. But yeah, these things happen. So it was done on, and that was the panel finish. That's how we done it. So there you go. There's a sort of second part of the two-part making panels for the Riley. Hope you enjoyed it, found something useful. If you did, give us a little like, and if you want to see more, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. All right? Yeah, I'm just going to check that Pirelli calendar still in the office. See you later. So, bodywork. When we're I think that's it. Panel. Panel. So, bodywork. And then it's just a case of lining them up and riveting them on. So, bodywork, let's have a look. When we're Who sent this? Your dad sent it, did he? Yeah. Well, you're not having it back. You have to have it back at the end of term. I'll put it in my office for now. All right? Right, so... Oh, my end's come off.